Welcome to the Carousel, where we discuss video games, movies, sometimes comic books, and whatever awful things those conversations lead to. I am John MusiM. With me, I have Jake.
Hey guys, Angry Jake Gamer coming at you. Today we're going to talk about how fucked it is that Microsoft put the Xbox One discs on the wrong side of the case. Let's go.
Did they do that? Really? That's the thing?
Yeah, you have an Xbox One, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah, if you have a case, you open it up, the disc is on the left side.
I own like 2 games for it, so I'm...
Same, but I dug NHL 16 out last night because I was just feeling some hockey. And man, that game is still fucking rough on be a pro. Like, I haven't played this thing in months. In my first game back, like, I'm a rookie. I've been in this league for like 10 games at this point, and I got 3 assists and scored 3 goals, and the coach gave me a C+ on the game because I'd let a couple goals in. I'm like, dude, we won by 6. I was involved in all of those, you shithead. And then I turned it off. Man. That's my hockey story.
Are you getting the Xbox One X? Actually, out of curiosity?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
No, if I'm going to spend that kind of money, I'm going to buy a Switch. For starters, actually, if I'm going to spend that kind of money, I'm going to get the TV with the 4K and the HDR first. That's the baseline for even having any interest. I saw a story a little bit ago on Kotaku go up, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, that the Xbox One X will run The Witcher 3 in 60 frames, so long as you don't update it with the patch that puts all the extra textures and shit in it. And man, that GIF looked real good. But like, I don't like The Witcher, so I don't know. No, it's not worth the cost for me.
Okay, yeah. There's a surprising amount of positive hype for that game. Like, I'm kind of amazed, like, on my Twitter feed and the various Discord chats, like, a lot of people are super excited for that thing, which is...
You said the game, do you mean The Witcher or the...
Or no, the
Onyx?
Xbox One X. Yeah.
I will never stop calling it the Xbox Onyx.
Yeah. I mean, Onyx is kind of a cool name.
It's too good of a missed opportunity, especially when it was Scorpio, and you threw that out. Like, at least I'll settle for Onyx, you dicks.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, glad people are enjoying it. I don't understand why anyone wants these mid-generation things. I think the only reason I'd want to buy a PS Pro would be if I got the PSVR thing. But
yeah, there's a thing you might be interested in coming out for that. Actually, it'll come up later. On Wolfenstein: The New Colossus, they're in your it's the something club, like the Strikser club or something. It's the name for your little revolutionary group, and they have like a little diner cantina thing on their little base, their submarine, and it's got like a VR corner, and it straight up says VR on it. So maybe that's coming later. I don't know. I was playing it on Xbox, so. I don't know, it seems weird that they would put it on there if it wasn't supposed to be, or maybe they're going to do like simulation missions there later or something.
Well, I mean, Xbox was trying to get an Oculus thing going, so who knows, but...
Yeah, maybe.
I mean,
but even that...
Stranger things have happened.
Yes. Well, before we get to that,
okay.
I want to make sure I plug the Discord.
Oh, right.
We've been a lot more active the last couple of weeks. We had some new folks show up. We did get a nice letter from there. It's from Bite Me. It says, "This isn't a question. I just wanted to say thank you guys and gals that have been a part. Been a fan for quite some time, enough to have listened to almost all the casts. Y'all have brought me through many monotonous days and even brought me up on a couple down times. I found myself laughing out loud for several minutes on numerous occasions, and y'all have turned me onto several different things, books, shows, games, comics, etc. I would have probably never found otherwise. You don't seem to do it for the money," which that made me chuckle. "You just seem to do what you enjoy and hope it brings joy to others. I don't know if I'm wrong, but if there's the case, no, you've at least accomplished that with me, and I'm forever grateful. As long as you put out casts, you'll have me here, and I'll gladly continue to help put out words, so maybe you can bring the same joy to someone else. Again, thank you." And then he or she yells at Joey and says he needs to come on more often, and I agree with that sentiment.
Seriously. It'd be great. We could have someone who has with actual charisma. That isn't, no, I'm in asshole mood. I guess that's always...
And actually, after we get done with Stranger Things here, Bakemono in chat is asking for a link to the Discord. I don't know how we generate those. Can anyone generate one, or do you got to be a mod or something?
I don't know. I think I made you a mod. I'll throw one in chat here as soon as I figure out what the fuck I just did with my Discord. Like, the Discord thing is really weird because I make these links and click set it to never expire, but then they keep expiring. So I don't know what the hell I'm doing wrong here.
So we're like invite only then or something, I assume? I don't know how any of this thing works.
You gotta click on the Discord link for a thing. I need to look into it more, and I haven't. I've just always clicked on the invite people button, and it gives me a link, and it has a checkbox that says, this is great quality cast material, isn't it? Me talking about how much of a dumbass I am with this piece of software.
Well, it's got a lot of functionality that we're not currently using that, I'm not necessarily against.
It's really like... Sorry.
Right now we're just kind of using it as a text chat room that sort of follows you around in your pocket all day. But it's got stuff where we could set up, I think group Skype calls, not Skype, but group voice calls, or you can make a private room so, you and someone else from the group can, I don't know, talk to each other while you're playing Dota or something. If for some reason you hate using headsets, I don't know. But there seems like there's a lot of cool stuff in there. It's great for GIFs. A lot of these things don't really support GIFs very well, and this does, so I'm liking it.
Yeah, it's Slack for gamers, like if you've ever used Slack, But I like it. I'm in the TVGP and Banffcast ones, and like I like those communities. They're extremely hard to keep up with, so I usually just don't keep up very well and walk in the middle of a conversation and blab something off, and then just watch the avalanche of shit leave me behind. But anyway,
that is. I'm sure there's a setting to figure that out. The only thing I'm having a little trouble with so far is like the push notifications. You only get a preview, which is good, because you don't want your whole phone screen filling up with someone's entire wall of text just when you go to see if somebody called or something. But sort of kind of trying to read those backwards is a little weird, but I'm sure there's something in the settings to switch that up. Well,
and also keep in mind, if you've never used one of these clients before, you can click on any of the topics and turn notifications for it off.
Right, like I have to do with the sports in chat now, that it has been hijacked from me and is now completely about Frisbee golf.
Oh, God, I loved it. I loved it so much. Joy loves fucking disc golf so much, and having someone else hop in there who loves disc golf. Just watching, like, you made this thing so you could talk about football, I'm assuming, and...
baseball and hockey, good sports.
It just...
No, it's fine. I was happy to see it getting used. It just made me laugh that I was like, this thing sits here for a month and people just fucking make fun of me in it, and then it comes in and they may as well be talking about fucking bocce. And I'm like, fuck, I don't know anything about this. I can't even participate now.
Oh, man. Joy's like a
hardcore
trying to
include me, like, hey, have you ever played it? You should try playing it. You might be really into it. I wasn't into it, and then I played it, and I played it for 2 months, and I was just like, it's winter now.
Yeah, Joy, like, not that Tulsa is a large city that we live in. I think we have like 2 million people or something like that. Joey won like first or second place at like a disc golf tournament a year or two ago, so he's probably really fucking amazing by now. So just keep that in mind when you hear him talk about disc golf.
Oh, it wasn't him. Oh. I don't buy any of his propaganda. I already know better. So anyway, we should actually talk about some real topics that show up for.
Yeah, so we both watched Stranger Things Season 2, right?
Yes.
Did you make it through the whole thing?
I didn't like it, but I did finish it.
Okay, good. We can start spoiling. No, we're not going to spoil anything. Okay, well, you didn't like it. Well, I did like it. So, good. We're going to have fisticuffs now. So, did you like anything about it?
I like the way they came at it. There was some real good Hopper stuff. There was some real good Eleven stuff. Yeah, I feel like they're almost a little bit kind of like the dog that caught the car. I don't know. It was fine. It was fine. I don't know that I need to go back to that town. I really liked Paul Reiser. I loved all the acting in it. All the acting is still great. All the writing is still mostly great.
So, real quick correction. As you guys pointed out in the chat, and I just double checked, Tulsa's 400,000 people. It's OKC that's 2 million. That's my brain. Just got the two mixed up, even though I live here.
Yeah, you say that every time to the point where I'm thinking maybe you should just move since you want to be in OKC so bad.
Fuck that. I don't want to look, OKC is a giant fucking ghetto-ass highway is what OKC is. So don't even bring that bullshit up.
All right. So anyway, I just, it seemed like I don't think the story, because I went back and watched the first season before I watched this, just as a refresher, because I never went back to it. And I don't think the story was ever the strong suit of that series. It was everything but the story. It was the sets, it was the sort of, the accoutrement, all the clothes and the hair and the cars and stuff. The couple of characters that they introduced in this season, I like Max. I think she's cool. They're giving her some more to work with. But like her stepbrother and all that family stuff, I think was completely insane. I don't know how they ever thought you'd buy that actor as being in high school, because he looks like he's like 33.
That actor is the Red Power Ranger from the recent Power Rangers movies.
Oh.
Just FYI.
Okay. So, I mean, I feel like there probably wasn't enough story for that series to begin with, and then they've done a second season, and it's not that I didn't care about what happened to any of the characters, it's that I didn't think anything that happened was really especially interesting.
So I disagree with basically everything you just said. I think a lot of people, when they watch the original Stranger Things series, and actually you probably agree with this, and probably we're kind of sideways saying this, is like the first series is kind of a hodgepodge, right? Like there are a lot of scenes that happen in the first season that don't matter, that don't serve the overall plot or necessarily character development. They just are there to have those characters to do something. Like the best example I can think of it is when you have Steve and photographer kid whose name I never can remember, and the chick they both fight over, like in the house, fight in the Demogorgon. Like that whole scene has no point to it. They accomplish nothing in that scene.
I think that's one of the stronger scenes from the first one. Because all the traps and stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is just.
Are you laughing at chat?
No, I'm laughing that we just have complete opposite opinions.
So here's why I think that scene was good for character development wise, is that not only did they, in season 2, they try and make Steve a much nicer guy than he was in the first season, and it seems like they sort of wrote themselves into a corner with him in the first season. We're like, oh shit, like maybe we really like this actor or this character or whatever, and we got to make him less of a shithead. So let's get him back into the mix and not just write him out forever as a bad ex-boyfriend that Nancy had. And also, so many of those 80s movies did the whole let's fill the house with traps. I mean, shit, that was Friday the 13th, or not Friday the 13th. The first Nightmare on Elm Street, that was like the whole gimmick. That's how she got Freddy, is she put Home Alone traps all over the house. So, I mean, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, if it had a point to them fighting the Demogorgon, I mean, yes, I see your point in them developing characters through it, but at the same time, I mean, that just makes it a CW show at that point, because everything in the CW shows is, no, we want this character change to happen to this character, so we're going to say fuck logic, fuck physics, fuck the plot, we're going to do this thing. I'm not saying the first season's bad. I think the first season's great. I think a lot of people overlook all the glaring faults with it because they like those characters so much. And I think the second season is incredibly solid and much more thought out than the first one. I think the story is way more consistent. I think the aging kids and thinking about girls more, I think is a cool sympathy. I like that the first season essentially, like kid-wise, stars Eleven and Mike, whereas the second season stars Dustin and I always forget that kid's name, not Will.
I couldn't have named Will or Dustin, so.
God damn it. Mike, Will, Dustin. I feel bad. Well, anyway, it essentially stars the other two kids, right? And then they add another girl to the group. And granted, I thought there's a certain plot line between that girl and 11 I thought was throwaway and was unnecessary. But like,
Well, they had to do that to make the weird ass joke that I was very torn on because it includes my city. But that thing led directly to that whole episode of nonsense that they got a bug up their ass to do with 11's big day in the city and like whatever. But yeah, I'm with you there. I will agree that the story itself was a lot more tightly constructed in this, and there was a lot less wasted time aside from that one episode. I just didn't care for it.
And honestly, the only thing I didn't like about that one episode 7 that everyone else is complaining about is the acting. I didn't think the new characters in that episode were... I feel like they were all overacting to an extent that didn't work. But I think overall, I like that episode. I like the expansion of the Stranger Things universe, right? And I like the idea of there being other subjects and finding out... dancing around spoilers. 11 did need some kind of plot push, and with them having basically ignored her for most of the season, I really felt that was good and necessary for her, because most people really would have been cool if it had just been 11 the entire time, I bet, for Stranger Things season 2. And she's a great character, but they just didn't do a lot with her this season. But I'm thankful for the other character development the other kids got. I don't know how I feel about kind of the storyline with the photographer kid. I think my critiques on that would be very spoiler heavy, so I won't get into it.
Well, they're very spoiler heavy unless I don't know if Bakemono in chat's making a pun, but he's basically saying they turned her down from 11. Which if that's the joke you're making, that's pretty good, buddy. Yeah, the stuff with the photographer kid who, boy, for watching 16 hours of this show, you'd think I'd remember somebody's name. Yeah, it is very spoilery what they do there, and it's also very patently obvious what the critique should be, and they should have seen that coming. Yeah, the critique of the overacting for the gang of bad guys that you were talking about, like those types of those types of acting jobs, like the performances, are sort of straight out of an '80s movie like Highlander, like. I was going to say Stephen Colbert. Nope, he wasn't in it. Stephen Lambert?
Christopher the Highlander Lambert. Guy? Yeah, Christopher Lambert.
Christopher Lambert, shows up in New York, and there's all the tough, the street toughs. And, they're all dressed exactly like this street tough gang was in Stranger Things, and they all sort of have the same, over the top, but, back in the 80s, they were being earnest, and here maybe they were paying an homage to that. And I don't know if they were, but the fact that I didn't know made it not work, and if they were, I don't know that it belongs in this show. It's just too much of a tonal change.
It had to be something different. They couldn't do the same thing over again. It would be, if they had just kind of recreated the first season again, then it would have...
Oh, no. I just mean that one set of, street toughs. That was a huge tonal change from the rest of this season. The overacting and stuff. I guess that's all I meant.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm all right with it. I'd like to see the other subjects, too. I would like to see them get out of the town. And honestly, this season really made me want them to do, Warren Ellis, a comic book writer, at one point did a series that its idea in conception sounded way better than I think he did in execution, but it was still kind of neat. He basically said, what if the children of the damned grew up and made this internet comic of them as adults? And now, that I've gotten season 2 of Stranger Things with them as kids, now I want to see them as broken, fucked up adults, hardcore.
Give it 2 more seasons. These kids are growing up quick.
Yeah. They better get the film. But to me, there were just a lot of really cool and relatable moments, and they had a lot of film homages in it that I can't remember. I was watching some website and they did a bunch of film comparisons.
Aliens for sure.
Yeah,
It's particularly like I don't know that I would have noticed it had Paul Reiser not been in the show. Like that kind of nailed it to the wall. Oh, Sean Astin was in it. He was great.
Man, that was a good character. I enjoyed his performance in that show. It was nice to see.
I liked him very much in the last episode that he was in this season.
Yeah. I also, man, it's kind of funny. Like, I really like the actor who plays the sheriff, but like, he's such a fucking dick.
Yeah, but he was really trying to be less of a dick. Like he was trying to go into dad mode, and like they did that whole subplot with him, and it's like by the end of that, and then him and Eleven in the car, like sure in a moment, and he sort of opens up, and it's like yes, they're pinning a tail on what they were trying to do with his character, you know, for the audience, which whatever. It's still a good development, you know. So like that's why I keep saying I like everything about this season except for the story.
I enjoyed it. Like I liked I kind of liked the monster. I thought all the effects looked better. I thought Paul Reiser. Well, obviously they were going with that, and they like in the Stranger Things, Beyond Stranger Things interviews they did, like a 6-part, like 5 to 10 minute episode, like various interviews with the different actors and stuff. The brief Paul Reiser one was he's like, yeah, I think they really wanted me to be kind of like that, you know, Aliens. Predator 2 character again, and I kind of gave him a little bit of that, but like he was way more round, like he was a complete fucking dick in those movies, and he was not really in, like he was still kind of a dick, but at the same time he was way more human than he was in those past movies.
When in, you know, you have here what I think they're going to have trouble with in Punisher, which is coming up in releases. You have a villain, because he is you know the nominal villain, you know, aside from the Stranger Things, you know, he is the nominal villain, but like they have a villain who thinks he's doing the right thing, and you can sympathize with his point of view, where you're like, yeah, he's kind of doing the right thing if you know what he knows. It's just that he's approaching it the wrong way. But like, I don't have a better answer for how to approach it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Bakemono's calling him an anti-hero. I don't know that I'd say that. I don't know that he's a hero at all. He's just sort of a villain with good-ish intentions.
Is he a villain? I don't know that he's a villain. I don't know that he does anything really bad other than ask people to keep quiet and maybe apply a little pressure. But other than that, he's... Well, we'd have to get into spoilers for most of this. But like, I think...
So, without doing spoilers, his character is basically the guy running the facility from season 1. So, like, if anybody has any type of power to do anything about this situation, it would be him. And I don't think he really takes too much action aside from, you know, keeping the status quo going. And in fact, Hopper kind of forces him into doing something. Like, eh.
I don't know. I think he's kind of... I disagree. I think Hopper does force him into doing things, but for the most part, he is kind of mostly acting good with good intentions the whole time, and it's not like... I mean, the bad guy... That's a spoiler. Look, the bad guy in the season is very clearly... No, I can't think of a non-spoiler way to say that, but, you know, it's the spy. The bad guy in the season is clearly the spy.
Wow, I'm completely drawing a blank.
They had an episode called The Spy, so I was hoping you would have put those things together, but you didn't. So, anyway, I'm gonna want to.
Oh, yeah. That is the villain that is the big bad.
Yeah, and I will say I'm glad they Winona Ryder got to make Winona faceless. I think I saw someone coin that the other day. I think it was Honest Trailers actually, but man, just no good brand I can bring up.
Is that like wide eyes, chin sort of poking up, pleading face, Winona Ryder?
It's yeah, just watch their it's a real funny bit they do on their honest trailers. I don't want to real recapture it, but they take all her freak out faces and then they like end it with like her on stage at the Emmys or whatever, like
making all the faces behind the guy doing the speech.
Yeah. It was a funny bit. I'll give it to him, you know. But anywho, the Beyond Stranger Things, I kind of enjoyed watching it. The creepiest thing about it to me was like they do these round tables with like 4 or 5 actors, right? And the Duffer Brothers, the guys who wrote and direct most of it, were there. And every time they introduced the Duffer Brothers, they were in the exact same positions and made the exact same motions. And they looked so fucking weird. Like they just like are these weird like round-headed bearded guys in these really plain sweater things. It's very like it makes me feel like Will Ferrell if he wasn't making a creepy face, but he probably should be making a creepy face in a photo type thing. It was, I don't know. Anyway.
Were they playing it for laughs or was it just...
No, I think they're just very awkward people is what I think. But it was...
I mean, they're writers, right?
Yeah. The behind the scenes stuff was kind of fun. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. So, did you have any closing thoughts on that? On Stranger Things 2?
No. It was, I don't know that I never need to see any more of that stuff, but, for the sake of everyone who's still loving it, I hope they keep making it.
It's a lot of people didn't like the second season. I don't think a lot of people disliked it as much as you disliked it. But
I'm trying to, maybe I'm overselling it. I have no beef with the construction of any facet of this show. I'm saying the story did not grab me. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the construction of it or like any of that stuff. So this is not a critique of it. I'm saying it didn't grab me, and then I'm not going to be moving on with it. But I do hope that they keep making it because it is well made and people enjoy it. So yeah,
I will say the original Stranger Things I watched in a day. Season 2 I watched over 3 days, but I think that's more to me becoming an adult who doesn't have to binge watch everything than the quality of the show. But I think the second season's more solid, but I think like any good sequel, it couldn't exist without the first. So okay, so
speaking of sequels,
I saw Thor Ragnarok. Are you sure it's a sequel? I don't think it's a sequel. I assume you didn't see this. I don't see you on here, so.
I did not. I meant to, but my interest in this movie, and don't get me wrong, it looks like the best Thor they've made so far. And like that they actually might be able to use Hulk well for once, but my hatred of the theater overwhelmed my interest in seeing it. So.
Gotcha. So me and Susie went and saw it on opening night, did not go to the IMAX or 3D, which I think is just what we're probably going to do for most movies now because, like, those recliner seats are so much better than getting in the fucking IMAX and paying $2 or $3 more, and who gives a shit about 3D? So this movie is directed by Taika Waititi. We've talked about him a whole bunch on here before, so I won't just regurgitate everything I've said before, hopefully. I really enjoyed Thor Ragnarok, but I also am going to be way more negative than probably anyone else who's seen it.
So in the advertising, it seems like this is like they basically just took Thor and threw him into Planet Hulk and went with that. But my guess, and I don't know anything except what was in the trailers, my guess is that that's like 15 minutes tops, right?
Yeah, they're like it's probably a God. I don't know what the running time for the movie is. They're probably on Sakar maybe for. It's probably 30. It's not. It's I'd say a third of the movie at most, like somewhere around there.
And so obviously he can't end up there the way that he does in the comics because A, Marvel doesn't own the rights to any of the characters who send him there, nearly. And then B, like they probably don't want to destroy New York. Well, so are they at least clever on how they get him to Sakaar?
Thor or Hulk? Thor?
I guess either of them.
I mean, yeah, no, I don't know that it's clever. It's just Deus Ex Machina. It's more clever
So
than,
no.
say,
Okay.
it is more clever than, say, in Star Trek, where fucking Kirk crash lands on the same planet as old Spock and Scotty by random, or whatever. Like, it's less Deus Ex Machina than that, but it's how he gets there and how Loki gets there is very much a kind of the same method and kind of the
Oh,
same accident.
they got Asgard portals. Okay. Yeah. All right.
I mean, it's like this movie is like it's funny, it's witty, it's very shallow. It is. I don't know. My brother claims it's not a comedy. I disagree with him and haven't gotten to have that argument with him in person yet. I think it's kind of a more so than any other Marvel movie. It's a kids movie.
Well, that's certainly how they're selling it.
It is like there is only one dramatic point in the movie that is not destroyed by or a setup for a comedic line, and like, well, that is an important dramatic point that if you added all the time that point took to get to takes about 5 minutes. Like all the other, like there are a lot of other parts in the movie that I think could have a lot of levity and emotional impact that they completely gloss over. And granted, the jokes are funny. Like they're very much kids jokes. Like the way they use Hulk in the movie is of course hilarious. You kind of knew it would be. The way they use Banner I think is hilarious too. I'm real tempted to start giving away some of the jokes, so I'm fighting myself hard on not quoting any of it.
I'd rather you give away I'd rather give away plot stuff than the jokes.
Yeah, I don't want to give away any of that. There's a metric ton of humor though. I don't think the intro to the movie is all that great. I think it was a decent idea that just wound up being more kind of jarring with awkward pacing than anything. The movie very much feels like Taika Waititi tried to direct one or two action sequences and kind of gave up on the rest and just let Marvel do it. So there's a real big kind of flow and tone shift anytime there's a battle usually. I do think...
So it's like they're walking across a field and then you hear the boing, boing, boing.
I don't
like
know.
that's like Final Fantasy. Like that's the tonal shift. Like you fight now.
Yeah. They also I won't mention who or anything, but they kill off a few characters at the beginning of the movie that really to me just sells how unimportant those characters were in the previous movies. You will, I mean, granted, if you just start naming off characters to me right now, you will probably eventually guess one, but I don't think they would.
There's only like 8.
I don't think they'd be your first instinct to it. The chick who plays Hela, I think is good. I don't think she's so great at delivering the comedic lines that Waititi gave her, although from my understanding, like 75% of the movie is all improv. Because Waititi, like he made a script and he says they're just the guidelines and I want the cast to improve on it, kind of thing. So they, like a comedy, you're going to get a bunch of jokes that don't hit and a bunch of jokes that do hit. You do get to have Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song in the movie, so that's a plus, in my opinion. Even if that song is ridiculous, really repetitive on guitar. That's probably...
How much Doctor Strange are we talking about here? Because I like that character a lot more than I liked that movie, and I want to see him in other stuff.
So a huge chunk of the previews and stuff they showed, all of that happens within like the first 15 minutes of the movie. So Doctor Strange is in it. He's got a real good sequence of scenes that probably last 5-10 minutes, and that's it. But it's at the very start of the movie, pretty much. So maybe
I was reading something on, I think, Crack today, where they described... They were talking about the Doctor Strange movie and like how that villain was so stupid. I'm not going to go into their dumb listicle, but one of the lines was that Doctor Strange is basically Tony Stark if he picked a different major. Like, that's a pretty good comparison and also a very good line.
Yeah, it's a good comparison and a good joke. I think that's one of those comparisons that I think is overly diminutive of the just. I think we tend to diminish the complexity of things down too much, so that we can say these two things are the same. This is man versus man. This is man versus wild, and it's like, no, that doesn't. This line of conversation doesn't help anyone critically.
I think you're complicating this too much, John. It was a joke about how they're written and portrayed. Just in the movies, not in the comics, not the characters themselves, what they end up doing later. It was just a throwaway joke, and it's funny.
I know. It is a good joke. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll stop.
You need to chill the fuck out, dude.
It just sometimes it drives me crazy where like people are like, oh, Doctor Strange the movie sucked. It was just fucking Iron Man again. It's like, no, not really. Like you're just taking the really broad strokes of this and trying to fucking make a point, even though the characters were...
Well, those first acts, I mean, aside from the imprisonment, are pretty similar. Those first acts and the way the characters are written. It's in the second act they diverge wildly. And that's where the comparison falls apart, but that wasn't what the joke was about.
I disagree. I think even on their professions is completely different. Like, they might have both been egomaniacs that were rich, but Tony is a fucking war profiteer who is likable. Doctor Strange is not a likable person. Like, he is kind of insufferable.
I think we had this conversation when we were talking about the movie, and you probably said exactly that, and I went, I like Doctor Strange better.
Oh man.
Anyway, so are we done rocking the rags?
Yeah, no. I mean, let's follow you to the Dark Tower.
Okay. Finally got around to watching the Dark Tower.
I forget. Have you read the books?
Yes. Well, I've read the first 8. Because there's like 10 books or something.
We're just going to talk the main 7, okay? You've read the main 7?
Oh, there's 7. Okay, yeah, so I've read all those. I thought the last Dark Tower main series book was like the 8th or something. Because he's got a short story in one of his like anthology books that has Roland, which is actually, I forget, maybe it's in like Needful Things or Everything's Eventual or something. You should look it up. Like, you can probably pick it up at a used bookstore or like on Amazon or eBay for like $2 a paperback. That story is probably like 90 or 100 pages long, and it's a really good Roland story. It's sort of a side quest, side plot sort of thing. But it's very good. It's worth reading. Anyway, this movie doesn't have anything about that, and it sort of doesn't have anything about the Dark Tower series. I will say this, my main complaint about the trailers, and this is going to seem so laughable when you hear this list of stuff that I have to complain about. My main complaint about the trailers was when you'd flip to that I don't know if you call it a magazine when it's for a revolver, but it's the sort of flip out the chamber of the pistol and flip in the other one, and and he sort of whipped the gun into the bullets. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought that looked terrible, and I didn't even notice it when I watched this. The stuff that they do, Idris Elba, God bless him, he really tried here. He really tried, and he mostly did a good job. There's a point where Roland gets sick from a wound, and it is not from crabs on the beach saying Dudachum and Dudachuk and shit. That they don't do any of that, which is a bummer, because it's probably a little bit long in the books, but that's a good sequence, and it changes so much stuff down the road because he loses fingers. He doesn't lose any fingers here. Anyway, he's sick. He's got a fever. He's really he's kind of on his last leg, but there's this fight that happens. Basically, a whole bunch of samurai orcs just show up apropos of nothing, and he's got to fight them while he's sick. But Idris Elba really sells it physically. Like how sick and hurt he is, like stumbling around and just like making wild motions, but still like being dead on target. Like they get the Roland quote unquote powers right. They really nailed those. But the problem is they never had a chance at getting this thing right. I mean, even if they had 7 or 8 sequels to tell all this story and cut out a bunch of the chaff, like maybe a lot of Wolves of the Kaya, They could have they could have made a maybe 7 or 8 out of 10 version of this for the screen if they had enough time to do it. Because I mean, you're dealing with what, 5,500, 6,000 pages of book, and trying to fit that into 90 minutes. And this thing was 90 minutes. They never had a chance. So they had to make some changes that don't work. For example, Jake Chambers, get it? 'Cause guns. Apparently he has the shine now, as in The Shining. And The Shining is just something that some children have, and you can kill the Dark Tower with it. So I guess I should have just stopped right there.
I mean, they had the weird little mental power stuff in the book too, but I can't remember. It's been too long. We need our Dark Tower experts here, like Joey or someone. But
so that's part of my problem is I don't remember. It's been years and years since I read the book, or the series rather, and it's not all perfect, but I don't quite remember just because of the sheer volumes, get it, of stuff, what they might have cut out and what they might have come up with and what they might have adapted and what was actually in there and was not faithful. Like the samurai orcs. I know there was supposed to be rat people in the later books, but they were in this movie and they were different from these orc things. And I know there were dudes in Lud who were all mutants and shit.
Oh yeah, did they eat any pimples? Was that a thing?
Did they what?
Eat any pimples?
They did not.
Okay.
Maybe that's in the deleted scenes. But these things straight up looked like Lord of the Rings orcs. So it's and Lud, from what I could tell, didn't exist. Because they didn't cover any of that stuff. There's no Blaine, which I get it. Blaine would not sell well in a movie. But that bummed me out.
Blaine is the best. God, I don't. That's one of my favorite. Book 2 and 3 of the Dark Tower are my favorites. I think Wolves of the Kala has some strong points to it. I should like Wizard in the Glass, but I was so put off on it. Thing is book 2 and 3 had me running so fucking tense and high. You did a real good build, and then it just goes into that. Let me make the biggest book ever about how I grew up now, and
here's a 550-page flashback.
Yeah.
Which I get why you had to tell that story, but boy, I mean literally, I think the way they introduced it was they get down by the campfire and he's let me tell you a story, or let's palaver, or whatever. It's
yeah.
I think he literally said something about the night lasting an artificially long time just so Roland could finish his story. Ugh. So anyway, they didn't have any of that stuff, and you couldn't expect them to, because there's no way you'd be able to get to all that stuff and tell any kind of coherent story in that amount of time.
I mean, I don't see why they. Okay, I guess Roland probably isn't mass appeal likable in the first movie, but or in the first book. But to me, that should have been their roadmap, is just start building these books one book at a time. Do your TV show for Wizard in the Glass. I think if you had just done The Gunslinger for the first movie, and then, is the second book Drawing of the Three? It always screws me up because of the...
Yes, it's Gunslinger, Drawing of the Three, and then The Wastelands.
Yeah, and I don't... Drawing of the Three and Wastelands, you could probably have some fudge factor in what you included in there, because obviously, especially with the end of the Wastelands, you don't want to end on the cliffhanger of does Blaine the Pain, the mono, in them, but... Oh,
that's right, I forgot that was a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Because the fourth book, I think, was out, it just so happened that I discovered these books, to where I was 200 pages left to go when the fourth book came out, so I forgot it was a cliffhanger.
Yeah, well, and I didn't start reading them until all of them were out, so, but I don't know, I think most of these you could have done it. I think Bachmono points out that King has a lot of fluff in it, and I don't think he's wrong. I remember there was a multi-page story of one of the ambulance people in one of the Dark Tower books having a nightmare and dreaming of a severed head or some shit like that, and they have those weird little side interludes or those couple pages of Stephen King directly talking to you, which are always weird, but...
Well, and that's the problem, that they couldn't ever have just made a movie just about that first book either, because it's more manageable lengthwise, but like there's like 4 things that happen in that book, and a lot of that book is just inner monologue. I mean, I think him and Jake have like 5 conversations in that first book, and the rest is just walking down a beach and getting chopped up by crabs.
God, no, the crabs doesn't happen until the second book.
Oh shit, you're right.
The first book...
there's even no beach. They're just walking in a desert.
Yeah. I mean, well, he goes in the... they got to go down into the mutant tunnels or sewers or whatever so Jake can die. But... and I think they briefly go to New York. But maybe not. I don't... It's been too long. I'm getting all this wrong. People are screaming at us right now.
They didn't get to New York till way later. Because Eddie was... So Eddie brought him back a hot dog and like 2 hot dogs and a Pepsi from New York when he was sick, because that's how he went to get the penicillin or whatever.
Right.
But he didn't actually end up in New York until like all the Dixie Pig stuff way at the end, like in 5 or 6. And by the way they portrayed the Dixie Pig really sucks. I envisioned it because I think it's supposed to be like an Italian restaurant, like kind of like The Godfather or something, and it was. It looked like it was just a 1-story version of the Mega City 1 high-rise from Dredd. Like, it was real weird. I got a couple more things and then I'll wrap it up. So, about Jake having The Shining, I don't quite remember how he got into Midworld. I know he had to go through that demon-possessed house that, like, tried to eat him and stuff and came alive when he went inside. Well, it does that here, and it begins to eat him, and then it stops because he told it to stop eating him. He was like, hey, stop, and the house stops and falls apart. So Matthew McConaughey was actually really good. It's just that the way they dealt with the Man in Black was so bad, because yes, he was a wizard in the books, but he wasn't a straight-up fucking wizard. They turned him into Professor X meets Domino, like Marvel's Domino. Like he's catching bullets and shit, and like he can talk to someone and turn them into dust. Like he's just he's omnipotent. It's like this doesn't work. They spend an awful lot of time with Jake's mom and stepdad at the beginning. And it's sort of a throwaway thing. I think it might have been because they wanted to have a sequel, and sort of they do a thing at the end that relates to what happens with the mom and the stepdad. That I think like they were planning on, maybe we'd have money to do another one of these, and we could either explain or develop some stuff because of this. And it didn't work. Unfortunately, the whole thing just seems. They can't do the pacing that you can do in the books. And I think those books work a lot in part because Stephen King can just wander off into 40 pages of nonsense. I'm not on board with 550 pages of flashback, but he can wander off on 20, 25 pages of nonsense or a chapter, that is not what you want to read because you want to know what happens to Roland and the crew right then and there. Oh, yeah. And no Susanna, no Eddie in the book. No Oi. Yeah. I'm sorry. In the movie. But like he does it well enough in those books for the most part that he can get away with it. And the movie just never had a chance because it had to get to so much, and it just ends up feeling jumpy and disjointed. And it's a real goddamn bummer.
Yeah, that sucks.
So why don't you tell me about a world that is not a bummer but is still fucked up and is way, way better than this movie?
So this will be real quick. So I downloaded the Horizon Zero Dawn DLC on Tuesday. Started up the game. Discovered that I didn't have the final uber special armor you can get in the game because you have to collect these power cells, and I was missing the last one. And because I'd already beaten the game, I had no idea where it was. So then I spent an evening and a half looking for that last power cell.
Okay. I did the same thing. Was it the one where it's like almost at the end of the game and you go way up in that high mountain?
It is. It is the very last. It's the Power Soul in the very last mission.
Where there was the round table with the holograms?
No, this one was like literally the last mission of the game. After you go and after you're in Silen's workshop. Is his name Silo? Anyway,
It was. I think it was Silence because I remember just
Silence.
groaning.
Yeah, you just climb down. You climb up an elevator, and then you go out into this big kind of reddish area for your confrontation with.
Very easy boss fight.
I guess I shouldn't spoil it, but anyway, so basically you go down there, and instead of going the correct path, you just climb up this cliff face and go into a cave, and there it was. And the thing was, is I didn't know which one I missed, and it had been so long since I played it. I didn't remember shit about the game, so I just looked up this IGN thing and started going through one by one and figuring out where the fuck these places were.
I did that too. I spent 3 nights trying to find this time. So I'm looking at the IGN guide, and it's way up in the north where, you know, the big spindly thing with all the arms that you run around. It's somewhere in there, and I'm following this guide and following the screenshots, and I never found it. Like, I still don't have the Uber Armor, and that's the only thing that was stopping me from having a platinum, which you can make money on now. So, so that pissed me off. So I'm glad you found all of them. How's the new stuff?
I don't know, because by the time I got that, I played about 10 minutes of the new stuff. So after I got that, I finally went up north. That is a hard combat system to go back to, not because it's bad, but because it is so fucking different from anything else. Because you generally don't just want to fucking blunt force trauma your way through enemies. You usually want to, you know, find their weak spots and pick the right bow to shoot them. And oh right, every single bow, even though they look the exact same, has different damage types and different functions. So
it's basically the Dark Souls of Dinobots games.
Yeah. Anyway, so I finally got to the new area, encountered one of the new monsters, which I forgot what it was called, but it basically just kind of shoots fire everywhere, and its weakness is ice, and it was a pain in the ass to kill, and I was glad I had a piece of armor that basically made me invincible.
Wait, whoa. This DLC looks awfully chilly. So this Dinobots living up there.
I know.
Its weakness is ice, and it lives there.
I don't get it. It's it's a scripted encounter, because I say scripted, loosely scripted. It is in your path to get to the new area that you have to cross, right?
Yeah, they do a couple of those in the regular game.
So it was weird that it was there, but I mostly just shot him with those arrows that explode parts off of him, and eventually got him down. But man, he was. I need to find a better way and remember to play that game well. So anyway, after that, you walk in and you go into the Banuk city. The Banuk, if you haven't played the games, for the audience, being one of the human tribes. They are the more kind of spiritual ones who think there's something good in the robots they got to get. That's the blue glowy stuff.
Yeah, didn't they have that like real small but very vertical village where they like had a couple captive or something, and a bunch of like you fought a bunch of birds there or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you go to one of their village and find out a little bit more about them and kind of get to witness this kind of tribal dancing scene. And I'm really kind of reminded about what great characters and writing this game has, even if a little bit of it was a little bit too to the point. But
those facial animations were so good too.
Yeah, it's
man, it's a pretty ass game.
It is still a pretty ass game, and I think those controls will still feel good once I get used to the combat again. But as is, like, you know, the platforming was always a little like it worked. But it didn't always communicate to you that the way that you really needed it to in terms of where to go. Like sometimes they painted everything yellow and sometimes they painted nothing yellow. So
when there was enough Skyrim mountains that you could just Skyrim your way up.
Yeah. That
when it didn't work, I felt like I was trying to Skyrim or Fallout my way up them a lot longer than I would have if they hadn't given me the cheese the first couple times, you know?
Yeah. Man, I gotta tell you, getting in that last area was hell because like the campfire next to it is just surrounded by fucking birds and razorbacks, I think they're called. I can't remember, the big cats with the guns on their back, and like it was such a pain in the ass figuring out where to go. And then finally I'm like, wait, I forgot how I played this game. So then I hid in the bushes, brainwashed one of the cats, and then while they were all fighting each other, just climbed a cliff.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the stuff that you learn, and that's kind of sort of a microcosm for how you play the game in the first place.
Yeah.
Like you are slowly learning again. You're getting that muscle memory back in kind of the same order, it seems, as how they taught it to you. Because by the end of that game, that is the answer for almost every fight.
Yeah.
Which is like, if you don't need to upgrade anything and you don't need any gear, you find the biggest motherfucker wandering around. You stick your bow up his ass. And you just tell him to go get everybody, and then you run.
Yeah,
that is the way to play that game.
Make a sock puppet out of his ass. Yeah, I concur wholeheartedly. But I look forward to getting into that more and seeing what kind of content they have to it. So hopefully the new area is pretty cool. The new village seems cool. I'm interested in the Banuk. It sounds like they're probably going to offer some history for Silence as... one of the comments going in the Banuk village is Silence calling what's her name, Aloy, and Aloy, that was it, and saying, why are you messing with the Banuk? They're stupid spiritualists. And her going, hey, I noticed you have those wire like piercing things that they all do. Were you a Banuk? And then he like hangs up on you or something. So I'm kind of expecting to find something out about him too. But
yeah, they were really sort of the only, and I guess it makes sense now. They kind of felt like the only piece of that game that didn't get developed all the way. Like, you have a very brief time with them.
Yeah.
Like, you sort of run up, you do the bird thing, and then they're like, yeah, we like those birds, and you're like, all right, later. And then you kind of never see them again.
I mean, realistically,
well, you see them at the end.
They're gonna have a sequel to this game, so I'm sure they were holding some stuff back anyway. But
I'm sure they were holding it back for the DLC.
Yeah, they just scripted out the game and said, you know what, this would make a great DLC. Let's rip it out, all this work that we've already done. No, I don't know.
You think that's a preposterous notion in 2017? They would leave a piece undeveloped in case they wanted to release DLC, or maybe already planned for DLC?
Well, they don't have loot boxes in it yet, so.
Don't they kind of, though? Or can't you buy random stuff from vendors? Like where it's a blind box? Can't you do that?
Yeah, but not for... I mean, that's not
It's for like materials and stuff. It's not loot boxes in the super bad way we're thinking of them. I'm just being a pedantic dickhead.
Okay, good. I'm glad you said it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I haven't picked that. I haven't picked that thing up yet. It's kind of not in the budget right now. It's getting to be that time of year where I have a party to go to every single week or weekend, straight through New Year's, and this is the time of year when it gets slow in the lending business. So the bonuses have mostly gone away. So yeah, that one might be an early next year thing.
Okay, well, how about you tell us about your what you've been playing?
So, in complete contradiction to what I just said, I bought Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. The reason I bought it is because apparently work was like a year late in giving me my 5-year anniversary gift, and that gift was that you get $100 of credit to go to this site and pick out whatever you want. And I picked out $50 for Xbox Live. I don't even know what you'd call credit for that these days. And $50 for PSN, and I had enough on Xbox to buy Wolfenstein, so I bought it because I knew I didn't want to be playing it under a gun, like something with Redbox where it's $3 a day. You need to just burn through this, go, because the longer you take, the more it costs you. It's really good. I will say this. Say what you want about the Nazis, but thank God all the typewriters are still QWERTY. There's some typewriters in the game that are all still QWERTY, and I was like, I thought Dvorak was a German thing, and then I looked it up later, and it totally wasn't. But It made me laugh that like they changed every facet of American society. Don't touch the fucking keyboards.
I guess I don't get the Decordy thing.
Well, it's just that I guess you'd have to play it like almost everything about American society is completely different because the Nazis won, and like that's the one constant, you know. We got the QWERTY keyboards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Was that the first typewriter or something?
Well, if you look at your keyboard, it says, and you read the top row, it says QWERTY. An alternative is Dvorak, which is supposed to be more efficient and give you less repetitive strain, which seems like something the Nazis would be into, and they didn't.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's an awesome, awesome game, except for the part where you play it. You know, you've been seeing a lot. I've come to this opinion over the last week, probably around the weekend. I sort of came to this opinion, and now everybody is eating my lunch because we don't record until Thursdays. But this is totally a game you should play at the very most on the second, the one above the easiest difficulty, like where they put a pacifier in BJ's mouth, because this combat is repetitive. You know, I've heard people saying the guns are fun. I don't think the guns are that fun. The controls are not. I mean, they're fine, but they're not great. Like, you need to do a lot of leaning, and the lean is the left shoulder button, but aim is the left trigger if you only have one weapon. Otherwise, if you're dual wielding. So, like, you could be holding the left shoulder button, you know, holding left or right on the thumbstick, and then trying to pull both the triggers at the same time. And it's stuff like that that just doesn't work. As everyone said, the feedback for your for, you know, whether you're getting killed is awful. I mean, I died. Now, I made the rookie mistake, and I bumped the difficulty 1 up from where it starts, which I think is like 3 out of 5, because that's what I played the last one on. I did fine. I died, I'm going to say, 130 times playing this game. And that load screen, it's not a Skyrim on the 360 load screen, but it's a good probably 20 seconds, which is a lot when you're dying every minute, you know, after it loads up. So you should definitely play this game on the easiest mode, or maybe 1 up from that. Aside from that, like, going through these worlds is awesome. All the posters are awesome. You know, the characters are all great. There's little tchotchkes in the world you can pick up and read letters and stuff that are all just very cool and creative. You know, like, I'm reading everything in this. I'm not reading everything in Skyrim. And granted, it's because most of those books are 19 fucking pages long. But I'm not reading everything in those. Here I am, because they've built an awful but very interesting world. All the cutscenes are great. You know, as people have said, there is some crazy shit that happens at the beginning of the game, in the middle of the game, at the end of the game. There's some awesome sequences. You know, everybody's got some character development, and there's like the crazy over-the-top stuff. Like, you know, BJ almost got nuked at the end of the last game. So now at the beginning of this one, he's in a wheelchair, and that seems like it would be the craziest thing that you would see in a game that, you know, if that were the only thing in this game, we'd be talking about, oh man, that piece when you were in the wheelchair was so nuts. And that's like the first thing. They have at least 6, 7, 8 of them, and they go all the way up to literally after you beat the last sequence. You still get another crazy over-the-top thing. The ending itself, like the ending cutscene itself, is not... I mean, it had so much to live up to that it couldn't have... Right? It had so much to compare to in the previous however many hours you've been playing this game that it could not have been a great crescendo. And it wasn't. But it was good, and it got the point across. I think I saw something on Black Friday deals that it's going to be like $25 at like maybe Target and maybe Best Buy. That's if you like first person well, I don't know that I can recommend it to people who like first person shooters. I would more recommend it to people who liked Doom, who like who like Bethesda first-person shooters. Because none of those are really good, but the worlds they're in are very good. So it's great. But what I will say that is super fucking awful is the end credits are 8.5 minutes long. And they are only 8.5 minutes long so that they can play the entirety of this cover of, I think it's Twisted Sister's We're Not Going to Take It, only like in a, I don't know, it's not new metal, and it's not black metal. It's whatever metal has turned into in the last 5 years, where it's just junk, 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 junk. You know, it's awful. It's an awful cover, and it's so long to the point where they literally run out of credits, but they keep making you watch a black screen because there's another 20 seconds of the song. It just like, oh, it pissed me off.
Oh man, that's too bad.
Yeah, it's there were parts where I out loud said "fuck this game" a whole bunch of times, and I did end up turning it down. It turns out on the last boss fight, it turns out that that's what it was. I turned it down and then lost my achievement for beating it on that level. And I could run past a bunch of fights, and I thought I could run past this one, and I did. And then I got to the top of this building that you're supposed to run up the side of and like run on the roof, and I didn't see the obvious visual cue they were giving you that you could run on the roof. So I thought you had to kill everything in the area, and you totally didn't. So I wasted another 2.5 hours going through that fight before I turned it down. But
great,
it's great. It's great.
Okay.
What have you been shooting?
So I finally actually started playing a bit of Warframe: Plains of the Eidolon.
You fucking did.
This is their. Did I say it wrong?
You did.
I don't even remember. How am I supposed to say it? Eidolon.
Eidolon.
I don't know. Anyway, so this is the big Warframe open world expansion. First off, the open world expansion is on Earth, so basically after you get done with the intro mission of Warframe, you can access it. I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. Like, I like the direction of it, in that I've been playing Warframe without trying to create a shopping list of ingredients to make a new weapon kind of thing. Like, I've more just, well, okay, I say that. It's more of a, I'm doing that without realizing I'm doing that, whereas previously it was constantly like, okay, what prime weapon am I going to grind for next? It's a really, really pretty open world area. I wish they would make it more open world MMO style instead of just kind of a, I mean, right now it's kind of a giant sandbox where enemies are kind of everywhere for you to aggro, and I'm kind of having more fun just playing the stupid run around and mine shit and go fishing mini games, and trying to explore some of the areas. They have little hidden caves kind of everywhere. But
aren't you a robot in that?
Ish. Robot-ish.
Okay. I mean, because if it seems just seems very cruel for robots to be going out and catching fish. Like, you don't need to eat. You're just making stuff suffocate.
Okay, you are not a robot then in that context.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's a spoiler for the game. Eventually, you get to a mission where you get to find out what you are. But that is
planes of suffocation.
That is very far. It is not the planes of suffocation. That is the second dream. It takes a long time to get there. I don't know how long it would take a new player to get there, but I imagine you're like looking at 80 hours of game time at least. Because you got to get to, anyway, it doesn't matter. On fishing, I was getting real frustrated with it at first because they never generated, and it turns out that you have to take out your fishing spear and stare at it for a second for them to start generating. Or at least for me, that's how it worked. I don't know that it's worked that way for everyone else, but
that seems like something they should make clear when they're teaching you how to do this.
They don't teach you how to do anything. What are you talking about?
Right. Fucking Warframe. What am I even saying? I should know better.
Yeah, no, I went in thinking I could use one of my melee weapons that's already a spear that I could throw to fish. No, I'm fucking completely wrong there. Had to, like, the way they make the economy work is like how they make their syndicate economy work, whereas you have a faction that you run missions for, you gain points in that faction, and it gives you access to a certain level of items. You can choose to spend your experience for that faction on those items, or save it up and level yourself up in that faction so you have access to even more items.
That's every MMO. Yep.
Yeah, so that's other Syndicate's work. I wish this worked a little bit less that way, but it's kind of a cool world, and it's the city and marketplace feels pretty good, and I kind of hope they go the rest of the way with it. You really got to watch your whenever you go there. You have to you have that little thing in Warframe where you can set to multiplayer or solo or whatnot. You have to pay attention to that, because the last thing you want to do is go out with a bunch of random people when your intent is to fish or to mine things, because they don't
just go out and stab a river for a while.
Yeah, because to me the game has, and I keep meaning to look it up and I keep forgetting to, but the game does not make clear that if you leave a session early in the open world thing, that you get to keep all your stuff. And the main problem is then when you're walking through this gate to load out into this area and you're with a bunch of randos and you decide to go fishing and mine stuff, and then you want to leave and they don't, then you have the problem of, do you leave early and roll the dice on whether you actually get to keep your shit or not?
Because is it like a group loot thing where you don't get to keep everything you picked up, or how would you lose your stuff?
Well, when you go into a normal Warframe mission, how it picks out 4 guys and you run in it and you run through the mission to the end.
Right.
The way the open world works is you load into it through the city gate, and then you go back out of it through the city gate. So if all players are not going back out, like the city gate does not open unless all 4 players in the party try to go back in the city gate.
Oh, okay. So it's like you'll be standing there trying to open the gate, and it'll say waiting for party members.
Yep. So
they did that in Neverwinter a lot.
I'm hoping that DE either has the foresight to make it fairly forgivable in that aspect if you want to leave early, or that they already have and they just haven't made it clear and I haven't looked it up, but I haven't been willing to chance it. So I've just been, when I want to fish or mine, I just go out there solo, and then when I run in bounties, which the cool thing about running bounties is it'll kind of just infinitely go. Like initially you'll pick one out and it'll be like, okay, this is a 4-stage bounty, so first you gotta hack the droid to escort it here.
You gotta hack the droid to mac the droid.
And then get the intel, and then you get the intel to go find the enemy target, and then you gotta conquer the base area to get the target to come out, and like it's a multi-step thing. But after you're done with that, if you just hang out, like Lotus will call you and give you another mission, so you can just kind of be on infinite loop of grinding that stuff, and it's fun to run around in that.
Warframe, an infinite loop of grinding.
Well, that's all RPGs.
That seems like the better approach than I think Destiny 2 did. Although I'm sure a lot of people argue the opposite. What I didn't like about Destiny 2 is you go to an open world area and you will, like, in short order, and it's not like the minute you land, but fairly quickly as you're sort of going through these levels and kind of getting past the sort of introductory, this is the zone stuff, you're going to have 9 active quests or active things to get into on any given planet or zone or whatever, and it drives me. The OCD part of my brain goes insane when they throw 10 active quests at you too quickly. So I like this idea of go do this mission we're sending you on, and then if you're still around in 5 minutes after you're done, we're going to assume you want another one, and go do that one, and then you can just leave when you want. And so how long are we talking for one of these multi-stage things to take? Are we talking an hour and a half?
I depends what, I mean, I usually do the 5-stage one since that gives me the most bounty, but those are the higher level ones. But yeah, it's about a half hour. 15 minutes to a half hour. Like, it's not, none of them are very long. It's usually go here, spend a couple minutes here, go here, spend a couple minutes here. The only time they take a long time is if everyone just brought shitty equipment and then you can't kill the thing, and then it becomes is this party really good enough to finish this, or should I just cut my losses and go kind of thing. But typically it's a 15 to 30 minute affair.
Okay. Okay, that doesn't seem bad because I mean, I feel, and maybe it was my ineptitude or lack of experience with the game, but I felt like I could drop half an hour, 45 minutes in a quest pretty easy just before all this open world stuff. So when you said that you're doing like 4 steps and then doing one of those things, I'm thinking like that seems like a lot of time commitment.
Real quick, Girl Centric in chat says, I kind of wish there was a list of quests I can pick instead of just telling me, instead of her just telling me so I can wonder if I want. Yeah, I wish there was a list of quests in the open world too. But at the same time, if you go to the bounty guy, like he gives you lists of 5 quests, but they're all generic, procedurally generated quests, right? But at the same time, like the larger game of Warframe, at any time you can walk to your little information console and it'll show you all the quests availables and it'll give you the bullet points of what you need to do to unlock those quests. So anyway, something to keep in mind. But I haven't really been feeling the Warframe itch like I used to. Oh, right. But then she says, yes, but then you have to go back to him. If you just hang out in the... Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, she's got a valid point. Like, because if you hang out in the wild and Lotus gives you these random quests, you will never get as much reputation as you would if you just went back to the dude and picked the 5,000 point quest again, you know?
Oh, yeah. So it's sort of if you want to maximize, you're not able to. It's just like real life. You're not able to wander around and have fun if you want to get the most money.
Yeah, like my big hope is that they spend a lot of time, like, because the way DE develops this game, it is very much like we finished, it's a week later, we're putting it out to the PC players. You're our beta test. And then a month after that, you know, console will get it. But the...
Yeah, they're getting it next Friday, I want to say? Yeah.
November 14th. So hopefully
17th.
It works. But, like, the... I just got completely sidetracked brain-wise. But my hope is that they spend a lot of time kind of developing and rethinking some of their economy and how they deliver some stuff. Because I'm enjoying the open environments enough in Warframe that I wouldn't mind them, you know, going even further and giving me a house or like a place where my spaceship can transform into a house or some bullshit like that, you know.
It sort of floats on the planet, just and the white picket fence.
I'd be all right with it. Do it. Give it to me.
The thing that they need to do first and foremost before I will ever go back to that game and give even 0.1 fucks is they need to get rid of like the 70 different types of currency. Like Destiny 2 already almost has too much currency, and it's getting up to like 6 and 7. They've got like what, fucking 40?
Well, if you want to say literal currency, then they really just have 2. But if you want to start including syndicates and the various things that can get experience in different ways and like all that other stuff, then yeah, they got way too much.
And the first thing they do when you log in, because they want to sell stuff, is they throw this screen at you that's like, you know, here's 45 things you can buy and the 98 components you would need for them. And I just like, I pulled the ripcord. I noped the fuck out. I was like, no, I'm not. This is too much for me.
I'm really confused. You're saying that it gave you the daily login prize and then you flipped out?
No, it wasn't a daily login prize, but it was like one of the screens in the ship in your cockpit that like has the offers, or maybe it was like a crafting table or something. Okay. It was a huge kind of like Tetris-looking... Go ahead.
You are greeted with 2 things when you log into the game: the daily login and the your email, if you have any messages. And the messages are usually like, the Void Trader is here, or here's this thing you won, or here's this new quest, or something like that. Occasionally you will get we have discounts at this shop, you should go check it out. You must be talking about the mod screen, which doesn't actually have anything to do with money, because the mods is how you level up in Warframe. Yeah, yes, and actually that's a good point.
I'm talking about.
That does need its own currency now too. So they
it just needs I forget exactly what it was, but I remember looking at it and like looking over 3 or 4 different things, and like they all needed totally different currency, and there was just big giant wall of stuff that they were like, here's all the stuff you can do. I don't know. Go figure out where you can find the currency for it. Like there's different gold and platinum or something you can pick up for this stuff, right? Or copper, or
I can't
they
remember.
use elements, right?
I can't remember what the name of it. It's just one. It's called. It starts with an E. I don't remember, but it's just one thing. It used to be fusion cores, but they got rid of that in favor of just one thing that you just get in general throughout levels. And so you'll use your credits and a combination of those to level up your mods. Girl Centric also says the login bonus is always like 50% off of spending real cash. Whenever you don't log in, like if you logged into Warframe every day, you wouldn't get that very often. If you like log in like once a month or something like that, it will always do that shit to you. Like the longer you are away from Warframe, the more likely your login prize is going to be a discount off Platinum.
Is it explicit? Is it like one of these things where, sign in second day in a row and the thing is better or something?
I don't know how. I think most of them are random. They do have like set like days, like every 45 days or something. Every 45 logins, not consecutive, just logins. You'll get some sort of special prize, and at day, I don't know, 100 or some shit like that, they'll give you a gun, like kind of thing, or a blueprint for a gun.
That's pretty standard stuff. So yeah, I guess try logging in a couple days in a row and see what it does.
Like I agree, it is annoying. I get tired of it. It's actually given it to me more lately. I don't know why. Maybe they have a thing in there that says you haven't spent money in a long time. You should. So here's the thing.
Okay, so here's the stuff I'm talking about as far as like what it was giving me to try and build stuff. Because I see what you're saying about there being like the credits, which is like the 3 blue hexagons and then like this green eagle-looking thing, and those are your 2 currencies. But then there's like, I'm looking at a list. There's mutagen samples, circuits, nanospores, plastids.
Okay, those are all
polymer bundles.
Those are crafting materials.
Okay.
So like,
okay.
I think you have an argument for saying that those are currencies and that you need them to craft things, but at the same time, that's also just half the RPGs out there. Like those are just general materials that you get from specific locations that you use to make things. So
it was just the sheer number of different ones that I like.
Yeah.
I just bounced off that I was like, whoa, y'all need to simplify this for people who don't. Like I've got like maybe 3 hours in the game. You can't expect me to know what all this stuff is.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, no, it's pretty overwhelming. I don't blame people that get turned off and run away. I'm not my old self that thinks everyone should play Warframe. It's a complicated fucking game. Like, no doubt about it. It's the most complicated Dynasty Warrior games you will ever play. Because once you get good at it and you figure out the systems, like it's a lot of fun, but it is kind of about this. It does way more to the combat than the Dynasty Warriors, but at the same time, it is about I made this frame that can fucking mow down 100 enemies in 0.5 seconds, anyway.
All right, well, we got to wrap it up here, so I'm just going to hit a couple of relevant releases. I'm not going to comment. You're not going to comment. I'm just going to read them off. Skyrim is getting VR on PS4 on the 17th. We're also getting Justice League, which should be shit, on the 17th. Mythbusters is coming out on November 15th on the Science Channel. It is a reboot with new hosts. And for streaming, you have The Punisher on the 17th. God, that's a busy day. And Marvel's Runaways on Hulu on the 21st. There you go.
Okay, and I believe our next episode would be scheduled for Thanksgiving. We haven't picked out our time, but we're going to do it obviously not on Thanksgiving. And right now we're leaning to do it on the first half of the week, so we will let you know or post when that happens. It might be at a time no one can make it. Who the fuck knows? But we will work on that. So. Yeah,
and again, don't forget to join the Discord. If if you're having trouble getting a code, I'm going to look into figuring out how I can generate them so the onus isn't always on John. Just send us a tweet at Carousel Podcast and say, hey, I need code. And we can either DM it to you or just link it back to you. I don't think we need to make those private, do we?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I haven't figured out why they aren't permanent, and I need to add it to the website. I just really want a new website. Anyway, you could also just email us, which is what I forgot their title. Bite Me did. He emailed us, and or she. I don't know that person, but they emailed us, and I sent them a invite thing. So. But please join. It's a lot of fun, I think. Really, it's a nice edited social platform where you're not going to get all the extra bullshit of a Twitter or Facebook, So, anyway, but visit.
Yeah, I am seriously considering just muting the fuck out of anyone who says anything political on either side in any capacity. This is not the place for that. Go do that shit on Twitter or Facebook.
Well, yeah, and it isn't. Anyway, visit the website at thecarouselpodcast.com. Email us at carouselpodcast@gmail.com. If you send us an email, we'd love to hear from you and discuss it.
Send Johnson antibiotics and cough suppressants.
It won't do any good. I'm pretty sure my body is harvesting the virus that will kill the world. But
send John a new throat.
Let me see, where was I? Rate and review us on iTunes. If you enjoy us, that will help other people who might enjoy us find us. And follow us on Twitter and join the Facebook group. And Jake, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and thanks for everybody in chat coming out. Pretty busy tonight. I always love seeing you guys there.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun. Come hang out. We normally broadcast every other Thursday at 8 p.m., again, not on Thanksgiving, obviously. And we'll see you next turn.
Hi, guys.
Okay. Titles. And I realized about 20 minutes ago that we needed titles, and we seem to be done with the jokes by then.
I don't even expect you to write any anymore. I know who you are now, and that's okay.
What is it? Oh, that's a loud thing.
Oh, we got titles from Bakemono as well. So I'll read his and you read mine.
Okay. Where the hell did Slack go? Oh, there it is. Fuck logic, fuck physics, fuck the plot.
It's like a Papa John's commercial. Just in the cadence,
I've never seen a Papa John's commercial. I don't know.
Better ingredients, better pizza, more racism.
Jesus.
Well, they're the Nazi pizza, right?
Are they? I have no idea.
Oh, that's a fun story. You should go check that out. Anyway, moving on.
Okay. The Dark Souls of Dinobots, Warframe, Planes of Suffocation, An Infinite Loop of Grinding, John's New Throat Kickstarter.
I have a favorite here so far, but let me read the ones from chat here. Doctor Strange is in it. Oh. Nope. Was that not? Oh. The formatting was just very goofy. He was trying to send us chat stuff. Nope. Those are our titles. Okay. We're professionals here. Okay. I think my favorite out of these is really fuck logic, fuck physics, fuck the plot. But I don't want to put F words in our...
As much as I would like to do that, I think... I feel like I've heard iTunes has issues with stuff like that.
It's not... To me, it's not cool for a show to put, like, big swears right in your feed. Like, because if someone's browsing on the store and then they see that, like, yeah, that's... At the very least, that's tacky, but it's a funny title. So I'm leaning towards Warframe, Planes of Suffocation, or John's New Throat Kickstarter.
Oh, did you not read off Bakemono's? Here, I sorted them out. Let me read them to you.
Did you? I just didn't.
So he said, I don't think a lot of people disliked it as much as you disliked it. It didn't grab me. Granted, the jokes are funny. Doctor Strange is in it. Doctor Strange is basically Tony Stark if he picked a different major. this is man versus man. This is man versus wild.
Oh, okay. All right. Because they almost went together conversationally at a point. I just assumed I was reading it wrong. I'm sorry, Bakemono. Yeah, maybe next time put some slashes in there or something. Okay, so these are probably a little bit long. Doctor Strange is in it, might work.
Yeah. So which one were you pointing towards?
I'm leaning towards Warframe, Planes of Suffocation, or John's New Throat Kickstarter, which I'm willing to rework that and make it punchier.
Honestly, I'm not in love with really anything that I've seen on this. Like, the fuck one is always the best, because who doesn't love the word fuck? But we need non-profanity, so I'm probably leaning towards my New Throat Kickstarter.
I mean, I would also take I'm not in love with anything.
I'm
that
all right with
you just
that
said
too.
right now. Is that better? I feel I'm not in love with anything because like a couple episodes ago we had like I didn't hate it or something. It's theming.
Oh.
Yeah, let's go with that one. I'm not in love with anything.
You sure? I don't. Bakemono has a vote for my New Throat Kickstarter, but I'm really afraid of what picture you'd use for that. Now that I'm talking about this.
See, it's that Twitch delay. See.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. See, so you got my backup.
Okay,
So
I'm not in
let's go
love with
that.
anything. Sounds great. So,
And what comes is news to no one.
thanks for joining us, guys. It's always a pleasure to have people live. It's a lot more fun having people out there. So, later.
Bye, guys.